In our previous tutorial, we'd created the part of the algorithm that would tell us if there'd been a tie between all 5 snakes, thereby creating an absolute slither scenario. Our objective in this tutorial is to create the part of the expression that will tell us if any combination of 4 snakes have tied, thereby giving us a 4-way dead slither. So in order to get things started, I need to copy another 3 of these to give us 7. We need 10 ultimately, but we just need 3 more for this part of the expression here. So I'll just take those down there. Bring in some more remarks. So the first thing I need to do is compare Nancy with Bonnie, Nancy with Dave, or Clyde, I beg your pardon, Nancy with Clyde, and finally Nancy with Dave. So that's got that little part of it done. Just zoom in a little bit, I think, here, so we can see what we're doing. So now I need to just wire these up. So I've got Nancy and Bonnie, so I need to compare the 2 of them. Nancy and Clyde, and Nancy and Dave. And that's that little bit of it complete. I'm just going to move this bool up here just to get it out of the way. For the next part of our expression, we need 5 bools. Give them all an extra input. Set that one up there. Again, I'm going to leave space between them because I'm going to label them. So that's done. Now when I was setting this up, I actually created tables to tell me which combinations of snakes I needed to work with, and by the magic of technology, here's one now. So you can see that it's just a simple spreadsheet, but it's a very useful aid to actually setting this up. And I'd recommend using this system if you ever do anything similar to what we're doing here in the future. Now I'll copy another remark. And my first combination will be Sid, Nancy, Bonnie and Clyde. Followed closely by Sid, Nancy, Bonnie and Dave. Sid, Nancy, Clyde and Dave. Sid, Bonnie, Clyde and Dave. And finally Nancy, Bonnie, Clyde and Dave. So there are 4 or 5, I should say, combinations of 4 snakes that we can have to give us a 4-way dead slither. The next thing to do is wire them up. So our first set of 3 will be Sid, Nancy, Bonnie and Clyde. Then Sid, Nancy, Bonnie and Dave. Sid, Nancy, Clyde Actually, that's Dave I've just done there, so I'll put that one in there. Doesn't really matter which order they go in, but I'll do that anyway. Clyde's going in there. Okay, so we've got those in there, and then we're looking at Sid, miss out Nancy, go to Bonnie. Oh, I beg your pardon, I've done that wrong. It should be the second one. Again, it's very easy to make a mistake. So Sid, Bonnie, Clyde, and Dave. And then our last combination will be the 3 compares that I've just set up for Nancy, Bonnie, Clyde, and Dave. So that's our combinations wired in there. The finishing touch here is just to get another bool, give it another 3 inputs, place it in around here, and then simply wire these into it. Now obviously the first 5 bools I've left their function at and that's correct, they don't need to be changed. This final bool, I just need to change its function to OR, because we're only interested in any one of these being true. We don't need all 5 of them. And that basically completes the 4-way slither setup. That's all we need to do there to get that to go. What we'll do next is test it out to see if it works. And to do that, I'm going to just come over to my constant first and change its value from 1 to -1, and then copy it across to get a second constant. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to plumb this first constant into Dave there and leave the top constant in Sid for now. I'm then going to plug in my result here, take that up there, and at the moment I'm getting a 0 in there, which is exactly what I want to see. When I unplug Sid and let go, I'm hoping that I'm going to get a 1 in there, and I do, and that proves that my first 4-way dead slither setup is actually working properly. So bool number 1, I'm checking Sid, Nancy, Bonnie and Clyde, and that's coming out with a positive result, which is exactly what I want. So the next test that I need to do is for Sid, Nancy, Bonnie and Dave. So I'm going to plug my -1 into Clyde there. I'm still getting a 1 in there now, which should prove that it works, but to double check I'm going to plug this into Sid and I get a 0. So that's correct. That one's correct as well. We'll leave that plumbed into Sid for a minute, unplug this, and then we'll check out Sid, Nancy, Clyde and Dave, see if that scenario is working. At the moment we're getting a 0. Let's see what we get now, and we get a 1. That's perfect, so that's absolutely fine. Plug back into Sid, plug into Nancy, and now we're looking at Sid, Bonnie, Clyde and Dave, and again we get a 1, so there's no problem there. And then the final setup, we're looking at Nancy, Bonnie, Clyde and Dave. So if I unplug from Nancy this time and let go, I get a 1 there. So that proves that this bottom bool here is all wired in correctly and working correctly. That's the checks done for the 4-way slither, and it's all working as we want it to. Last thing to say is that, as with the other scenarios that we've wired up, this bool here, the output of this bool, is going to be the trigger for the banner that's going to pop up out of the scoreboard when we get a 4-way slither. It's all working and we know that it's going to do its job properly. So that's great, and that just about brings us to the end of this tutorial. In our next one, we're going to develop the final scenario here, which is the setup for the 3-way dead slither check. So we're looking for any combination of 3 snakes having drawn with each other to give us our outcome. That's our next job, and It's not for the faint-hearted, this one. The first few here have not been too bad in terms of their complexity. The three-way slither is a little bit more involved, but don't let that one scare you. I'll be there every step of the way telling you exactly what's going on and how it works. Anyway, keep on enjoying the journey, and I'll see you in the next tutorial very, very soon.